Hello, everyone. Today I'm joined by Jule Wilhelm, founder of Fundraising FemPIRE, where she assists B2B founders in raising their seed rounds. Hey, Jule.
Hi. Thanks a
Welcome,
lot for
welcome.
having me.
It's great to have you here. So there's much we need to talk about. Just to get going, please tell everyone what Fundraising FemPIRE is.
Yes, I'm happy to do that. Yeah, so Fundraising FemPIRE is basically my new little own business, and I'm aiming to help and enable B2B tech founders with their fundraising. And I mainly focus on early stage founders that actually are trying to raise their first institutional round. So you might have raised already some money with family and friends, or you have raised some grants, and now you're looking to kind of do the first professional round, and you really want to gain access to network. You want to do it fast, structured, and organized, and want to try to build momentum rather quickly. And that's basically the aim with Fundraising FemPIRE to support on that journey.
Yeah, and I think like so many people who need support on that journey and need to understand better what that journey entails. I'm curious though about your journey, Jill. So,
Yes.
what led you to start fundraising FemPIRE? And I know
Yes.
you've also been, experienced with marketing, and I'm curious how that influenced your how the previous roles influenced the
Yes.
journey there.
Yeah, so I mean, in the last, let's say, 7 years, I've been mainly in marketing roles. So in different types of roles in corporate and scale up and in startup roles. And mainly, like the first time I got in touch actually with the whole fundraising topic was during my time at Speed Invest Pirates, where we focused a lot on marketing services for early stage startups. And we not only supported with marketing, we helped a lot as well with the fundraising, just due to our setup and our closeness to VCs, especially Speed Invest. But then also because it's just a super, relevant part of the journey in the startup world, or especially in early stages, I would say. So our aim was always to bring basically founders, let's say from their pre-seed round or pre-revenue situation to the next bigger funding round. And most of the time that was the first seed round. So I got in touch with the whole fundraising topic there. And I think now, after my time at Pirates, I just realized this is really a topic that is close to my heart and is really interesting to me. And I think it's still like one of the reasons why startups often fail. And also, it's very difficult on the venture capital side to actually stick out of the crowd. They get tons of applications every year. So how can you actually make the case for VC money? And the last point, which is a bit closer to my heart, is also the startup ecosystem is extremely, let's say, male dominated still. And especially when it comes to funding, only 2% of funds go actually to female founded startups. And that's also kind of my aim to, work harder on that. More money goes to more diverse teams, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's extremely important, and these numbers need to rise.
Yes.
I'm curious. Do you see a positive evolution though over the last years?
I think there's a positive evolution on the side of that there are more and more female founders that are entering actually the startup world and founding their own business. Unfortunately, on the venture capital side, there's not that much progress. I think in the last years, it has always been around the 2%. So a lot of work to be done there. But there is a lot of momentum, I would say, and a lot of ambitious and great women who want to change that as well. Especially also on the investor side, I believe, because obviously a lot needs to change on that side as well. So that just, the bias on the investor side can also evolve, and just more female founded startups have even the possibility to get the funding. Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, and it's amazing to see also that there are initiatives also on the VC side, right? Like FoundF
Yes.
or others the like that sort of focus specifically on this issue. Um, I'm I'm curious though. When you're looking for funding, you have to do a lot of things. You have to pitch. You have to market yourself, the startup that you're building. I'm curious, how do you see marketing playing a crucial role in a startup's ability to secure funding?
Yeah. Yeah, I think actually there's a lot of like similarities in the approach in marketing and in the fundraising approach, because ultimately now you're basically not selling your product to customers, you're selling your equity to investors. And you have to kind of market and pitch and tell well your story. And I think it's similar to when you do marketing, it's all about how do you create value for your customers. And the same goes for investors. How do you create actually something valuable that they are interested in and want to invest into? So there is, a huge overlap. And I also believe that in general, how you approach the whole fundraising, it's very similar on how you would approach probably customers. So if you're doing in a B2B setup, cold outreach, or actually trying to directly speak and attract customers, you have to do the same also for investors. And a lot of like, let's say, marketing tactics, apply also to the fundraising. So this is really important. And ultimately for me, it's just a different stakeholder in your universe, and you have to be able to tell a similar story that you tell your customers just to investors. So and it's also very relationship driven. That's maybe also interesting, especially in a B2B setup. I think it's all about building the right relationships, and also here with investors, I think it's all about that. Yeah.
Do you see there sort of differences in approaches when it comes to how to speak to angels versus how to speak to VCs?
Yeah, for sure. I think obviously on an angel level, I think also the personal connection plays even a bigger role, because often these are the first people that trust in your business, believe in your vision, and they are often also the ones that come really early on to your cap table. So I think it's just even more the relationship building, but also then later onwards, if you want to have the right VC, you also want to have the personal fit, because you're going to stick with them for a very long time. So it needs to fit. I think the pitch per se is probably very similar in terms of like how you would structure and build it. It's just then probably how do you approach these people and how do you build the network on both sides. Yeah.
That is very interesting.
Yes.
So I shared an office with Speed Invest just at the very early stages of Speed Invest, and you mentioned being involved in Speed Invest Pirates. Greetings to Oliver and the whole team and Daniel. Like, it was only 2 or 3 people back then when they set up shop,
Crazy.
and now it's the one of the biggest VCs in Europe. Like a great success story. So I am very curious about your experience at Speed Invest Pirates.
Yes.
So I mean, maybe to kick it off, if you could just detail a bit more how you focused on, helping startups accelerate growth within Speed Invest Pirates. How do you prepare them for fundraising through different marketing strategies?
Yeah. Yes, sure. Yeah, I think it's really great how Speed Invest involved over the years. We actually, Pirates also joined at the very beginning, and we were kind of like the growth arm of the VC, and we helped mainly the portfolio companies, and then later onwards evolved and also worked directly with startups and other VCs and kind of transitioned in a more agency or marketing agency setup. But yeah, our main focus was to really accelerate the growth of these early stage ventures. And I think, like the main goal or the main task was always to go from a state where the startup was already selling the product or the service. It was already, let's say, on the market, but the sales was still very founder driven, often, very direct sales. And it was not yet very clear which of the channels are actually the ones that work best for the business. And it was kind of on us to figure out, based on experimenting and doing marketing activities, how can we actually find the right channel for this startup that kind of accelerates this whole growth and gives us kind of this engine where, like ideally leads are just flowing in, and we can do a more structured way of selling. And then it always depended a lot on the business and the situation, what exactly we did. But it was all around the go-to-market approach and testing different hypotheses. And I think the most important was often, it started really being super aware about, the audience, everything, basically, what are their pains, what are their needs, knowing in and out who they are and being very close to them. And based on that, knowing kind of what are the right channels that we should test first, what are the right activities to experiment. And yeah, that's kind of what we did in different, let's say, setups and with different tactics, obviously. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm sure you have a lot of insights and experienced, some stories with some startups there. Any success story you'd like to share from that time?
Yeah, there are lots of success stories. One maybe which I like quite a lot is Woodspace, because I think they're kind of a good success story also for Austria. They just raised now also a 2-digit million round. So yeah, really, really great business. It's probably not the classic startup case or the classic B2B software case, because they're in the modular timber construction. So it's a bit of a different setup, but they're disrupting the construction industry with, let's say, unconventional ways, and also how they're doing their business. So it's, construction usually very slow industry, takes forever to build a house or a building. And they approach it with a very modular, super fast way of actually building the houses, and also very sustainable. So I think this is super interesting in general, like as a business case. And what worked here really well for us was that we worked very intensively at the beginning on building out the strategy. And the good thing was that they knew a lot about their customers, and they had already first assumptions, what are the verticals and part of the industry where they might be selling more. And based on these assumptions, it was really good for us to kind of build the marketing. And so what we did is, like, we had different verticals we wanted to focus on. So we kind of created quickly landing pages, and also worked on very nice and valuable gated content on these landing pages. And then we were also lucky with the search volume. So we decided to go actually for Google search ads, and could capture a lot of the market and of the people that were already looking for such solutions. And yeah, by driving them to the landing pages, it was very successful. And I find this quite a cool case, because it worked, like in the book. But I would also say, like, this might work now for them, but I'm sure it doesn't work for the next startup, because this is basically how marketing is. But yeah, I like the story, and it was a cool project for sure.
That's cool. So We'll look into it as well.
Yes.
Obviously, the the metrics you look at when you do campaigns like these, they are maybe right at some point in time, and they might change due to market conditions and you moving up market and so forth. Like if we turn it now back to the founders and them trying to get the right investors, what are some key marketing KPIs that early stage startups should focus on themselves to impress potential investors?
Yeah. I mean, I think the holy grail these days is actually revenue, unfortunately. So, why do I say unfortunately? Because obviously it's super difficult to raise right now pre-revenue. But yeah, I think important metrics would be annual recurring revenue or monthly recurring revenue. Then the growth rate is also very interesting. I think how much can you grow month over month to also show that, like the curve is going in the right direction. Potentially the number of customers that you have already, or yeah, if not, then proof of concepts, at least showcasing those as well. Then, I mean, customer acquisition cost and customer lifetime value, I think are super relevant, and also how they stand in relation. And then the classic ones, I would say, conversion rate, churn rate, retention rate, how many active users do you have? I mean, it depends a bit also on the business model, like depending B2B, B2C. But all relevant marketing metrics are also super interesting. I think if you can track them super early on is even more impressive, because I see a lot of startups that don't even know those metrics. It's very difficult for them to actually track and put them down. And if you are aware that you should be tracking those, at least some you should show in the deck, even if you don't maybe have all information yet. Yes.
That's very interesting. I want to look at when I look at the how sort of over the past few years post the Corona peak, how everything evolved. And you mentioned something very, very interesting there, is like nowadays revenue is sort of a prerequisite almost. How did the world change? Like it was a growth world before, now it seems to be a revenue world. How did you see that?
Yeah, I think so. For me, on the fundraising side, it's kind of clear, like the market or the economy is obviously more difficult, and I think we all feel it, no matter if you're in the startup ecosystem or in a big corporate. I think it's everywhere the same. But yeah, I think it's just not that easy anymore to get money. Money is not thrown around anymore. I think just before COVID and then during COVID, it was super easy to get capital. Capital was kind of like, yeah, everywhere. It was easy to get it. And also, valuations were super high like that. And I think it was almost like a vicious circle, because obviously if there's a lot of money, you can spend a lot of money on, let's say, paid acquisition. You can kind of really play the game of, okay, I don't know, we just push all the money upwards in the funnel, and we know exactly what comes out at the bottom. And no one looked really at how profitable this is and continued doing that. And it kind of, like the funding rounds increased again, and it was just easy to get again capital. So it was kind of a circle. It continued. And at some point everyone realized, okay, these businesses are not even profitable. What are we doing here? And then obviously the market situation changed and everything came kind of down. And yeah, it's much more difficult now to raise money, or not difficult. I think the market kind of calmed down again, like you need to have a really good business idea. It needs to make sense. You need to be able to kind of gain already traction without a lot of support. It's obviously not easy, but I think a good business is able to do that. And yeah, that's on the fundraising side, I would say. And I don't know how you see it on the marketing side, but for me, I feel marketing has also become super technical and very fast moving. When I remember when I studied marketing, it was everything, or marketing in general was always this, yeah, these are the people who do nice branding and nice images and nice creatives and cool copy and stuff like that. But I don't think marketing is like that anymore, and has evolved a lot. And also now with AI, I think you need to be very technical to keep up, and it's not that easy anymore, I think, to cut through the big noise.
Well, so many things to unpack here, Jill.
Yes.
So I'm like, so I also I see it. There is a sense of return to bootstrapping among founders,
Yeah.
and bootstrap for as long as you can. Bootstrap at least to revenue, best case bootstrap to profitability,
Yeah.
and raise then. In terms of the marketing side, definitely very technical. Although, and I want to pick your brain on this, I feel like through the advent of AI and being, the promise of agents and the likes, maybe the technical part of marketing becomes table stakes, and
Yeah.
everybody does it. Same as feature development and software becomes table stakes. And then brand becomes a differentiator, and the pendulum swings back again to the
True.
ones that you mentioned.
Yes, I like that. I mean, I think it would be actually a good thing, because obviously you want to stand out through that, and this is also what marketing is about. And yeah, I think in the past years it was all about this growth hacking, and how can you be smarter than the others, and kind of find technical ways of getting leads. And yeah, it's true that the brand hasn't played such a big role, but obviously creating now original content and being original is maybe the way how to cut through. Yeah, I like the. I hope so. Let's see.
Let's see. And when you look back at, you mentioned also this, the shift in the capital availability. The ZIRP era is gone, and now with interest rates having gone up, the availability is not there anymore. And
Yeah.
you've seen firsthand, right, a generation of startups being valued at very, very high valuations. What do you think? Do you think a lot of these startups were overvalued and will never reach their valuation again?
Yeah, I mean, difficult to say. I think yes, probably. I think the whole VC system, is just also a very specific one. How it just works and on what structure it's set up. And that's also why I think there's this kind of wish or desire from a lot of founders not to go that path as well, and kind of stay in the bootstrapping. I think the whole setup and ecosystem has kind of changed. So yeah, I think definitely a lot of valuations were probably completely over the top, and they will never really get there. Yeah, I think for now, and I think it's a healthy development, that just like people have a more, let's say, hesitant connection to VCs as well, and they understand better what it means and what influence it also has later onwards on your business. And that maybe there are other ways of how to grow and how to get money or resources. And I think that's a good thing, actually. Yeah,
I,
it's not
I
the only
full
way. Yeah,
I fully agree, and I think like the VC path is also not for everyone, and
no,
it's been preached to a generation of startup founders that it is,
yeah,
and now there is a shift to that.
Yeah.
But luckily, Fundraising FemPIRE is there to sort of guide founders. I'm curious. I want to swing back to it. If you could maybe describe your ICP, your ideal customer profile. What are the key characteristics of the founders who best fit for your program?
Yeah, I think I touched on it already a bit at the beginning. So my focus is really early stage founders, ideally B2B tech founders who, are in pre-seed seed stage, potentially want to raise their first pre-seed seed round. You might have raised already money, as mentioned quickly, from family, friends, or grants, but now you want to raise something a bit more professional. And in terms of like, of course, for whom it is, it's like for founders, but then also I think founders associates, because more and more I see this role evolving and they play a huge part in the fundraising process. And I think it's also for them because they take over a lot of the operational work that I'm also talking about in the bootcamp. And yeah, it's for founders that might have raised already and they've experienced what huge amount of work a fundraise actually entails. Or it's for founders who do it for the first time and they don't really have the network yet and they don't really know how the whole fundraising works. And it's all about really preparing for this in a structured and organized way and kind of enable the founders or the founders associate to push through with the fundraise and get it done. Because I see a lot of founders who spend quite some time on the fundraising, and I think considering that you need to push also your business, it's better to move fast with this and do it in a more structured way. Yeah, that's the
Okay,
assumption.
very interesting. This podcast specifically is a lot about mapping out the funnel that that other businesses have and sort of their process for lead generation. So I want to dig into that. So if you could walk us through your marketing and sales funnel and how do you attract, engage, and qualify your potential clients?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm really at the beginning still. So for me, the main awareness or attract channel is at the moment LinkedIn. So I'm working a lot and spending a lot of time on building the personal brand and spending time on LinkedIn and trying to connect with the right people. It's a good channel, I think, for short format content and finding new contacts and being also found, let's say. And then I'm trying to be present at a lot of events that are also relevant for the startups or being part of like accelerators, incubators, doing presentations, showing my knowledge, workshops, stuff like that. And then I really want to try the whole, let's say, hype around the lead magnets and work a bit more on that and also leverage this on LinkedIn. Let's see how that's going. And then I think more the activate or engage part, there I'm really trying to experiment more with long format content because I think people need to spend time with my brand and with me, and they need to get to know me. And obviously, LinkedIn is we consume very fast there, and potentially building more in the direction of creating longer format content in forms of a blog or YouTube or videos actually. So I'm not 100% sure yet, but this is kind of the goal. And I started hosting like a 10-minute super short podcast where I highlight like fundraising stories from founders so that other people can actually learn something from their mistakes as well. And then I think what everything is kind of gluing this together is probably a newsletter, because you need to kind of keep people in the loop. And then, right now, a lot of business is coming from direct recommendations and, people who I know through contacts and stuff like that. but this is obviously nothing reliable. It's not really a channel, so it's nice to have. But I would say I'm building this funnel, and I realize as well it takes much longer, or it's going to take quite a while. But I'm super motivated to kind of try to apply now what I learned and what maybe worked for other startups as well. Yes, let's see.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Also, that the fact that you're looking at it as a funnel with different stages and something tied together and stringed together. And in some, it might be quick glimpses and very short bursts, and then in others, you would need longer form content and engagement. Very, very interesting. So, Jule, maybe to focus again on the founders, I mean, when they come to you, they have most likely a specific view on what fundraising means. How do you find that is, and how often do you need to change their mindset to something? Then how is that whole process? Walk me through it.
Yeah, I think what I experienced the most is like startups coming and saying, "Hey, can you make intros?" And they think, okay, a few intros and I'm actually going to pay you for those intros, and then that's going to be it. And I think this is a bit short-sighted because you're not really so. And then often obviously this conversation starts, do you have a pitch deck and how do you present yourself? And then you realize, okay, because obviously I'm not going to do intros if I'm not going to be convinced about what are they actually doing in their business. I need to know that it's actually a case that makes sense. And especially if I use like my contacts, it needs to work well. So I think the misperception is often that it's just a short process and with a few warm intros it's going to work. And I think that's a bit wrong because like fundraising is not an easy thing to do. And I guess the most successful fundraisers are actually the ones that prepare properly and are aware what is coming their way. It doesn't only entail like a pitch deck and a few intros. In my opinion, you need to really have a structured approach, and you need to somehow build the right decks for the different people you're going to speak to. You need to have different formats for different situations. Maybe sometimes you're going to speak 3 minutes with someone. Maybe you have 20 minutes. Like, it needs to be different. It's different contexts, and your deck needs to work in any context. And then also you need to have a really good approach in the investor research. You cannot just have a few warm intros. I think you need to go much more organized and structured. You need to really research contacts, and this is a manual process. I think there is already AI tools out there, of course, but in the end, you want to build relationship with those people. So you need to research them. You need to know what they're doing, where have they invested in the past, who's the right contact in the firm, who do I approach actually, what are they looking at, what other investments have they done. So it entails quite some manual work, and this is often underestimated. And then I think also the whole momentum is something that you need to try to build. And if you're just starting to reach out to a few people, you kind of lose that momentum, and you're not creating like a hype, let's say, around your startup. And I think what is really good is if you have prepared already everything up front, the investors, who can make warm intros, and you have that all lined up. And when everything is ready and you have the documents, the deal room, and everything that you need, you then actually only go out and you do it in a more, let's say, speedy way. And you say, in these 2 weeks, I want all meetings happening and I want to speak with all those investors. And then you kind of know that the investors are going to speak with each other, and you're able to build kind of like a momentum and kind of create some FOMO maybe, and make it also a bit more pressuring that there's an urgency that you want to close this round and you want to finish it. And this is often something that founders don't really understand. and they do it over 6 months, and they speak here with investors and there with investors, and it's just not really materializing. So that's kind of the mindset shift. Fundraising is nothing like easy, and you have to do it while running your business, and it's going to take time and manual work. And yes, there are tools to automate things, but nevertheless, it's manual in the end, in my opinion. Yeah.
I fully agree. I think that hasn't changed, although there are more tools and more know-how available. What do you feel like when you look at past experiences at Speed Invest and now, do you feel like the way founders approach these things and the whole startup culture has it matured in a way?
I think yes and no. I think there are founders that they know it all, and I think they they will do it by themselves, and they're very convinced that they don't need outside help, and it's just better if they do it themselves. And I think that's also fine. A lot of people have already good networks and contacts, and maybe they have built something previously and they're gonna raise easily. But I think there are a lot of other founders that don't have it so easy. So in my opinion, I don't think it has matured. I think there's still like both sides out there, let's say it like this. Yeah. I don't know if you see it differently.
Very diplomatically put, Joe. No, I feel like in some cases it has sort of matured, but I think probably it's also the way first-time founders look at startups, and I think that has matured. So
yeah.
It feels like the companies that are being started have more thought put into them than 10 years ago. That's my feeling.
Which is a good thing.
Which is a good thing, obviously it's a good thing for the whole ecosystem, for the founders themselves first and foremost, but also for the investors and everyone involved. When I heard about Fundraising FemPIRE, it has been pitched to me as quote unquote an inclusive platform with quote unquote an enablement program. Now, Jule, can you tell me what that means? What makes this sort of approach unique?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is actually from the LinkedIn page, and I created this at the very beginning, but I mean, it's still true. I think it's no secret that there are a lot of like services or accelerators, workshop formats out there ready to tackle the whole fundraising topic. But what I've realized also while being part of some is that many just touch the surface, and I think they explain how you should do it, but it doesn't really go so deep into how am I actually going to execute this, in the sense of it's a lot of information and good input, but then you still need to do the work yourself. And this enablement program is for me now the Dealmaker Bootcamp, which is a bootcamp where it's really about hands-on doing the fundraise kind of together, and do it over a course of only 8 weeks, so that you actually don't need so much time. And doing it really hands-on, meaning like it's not about, this is how a pitch deck looks like. It's about, now we're really creating your deck, and we're going to work on it, and we're going to finalize it in those 8 weeks, and it needs to be really done, and also like this is how you research investors. No, it's about let's actually research investors, and how do we do it? What tools are there to get contacts, scrape contacts, get intros, find people on LinkedIn and stuff like this. So really doing it hands-on kind of together, but in it's time boxed. I don't want the founders to spend so much time themselves on it, but rather in the program together, where they can also actually learn from other founders and work on it in a more collaborative way. So this is the enablement program, and inclusive platform is just, it's kind of my big wish. I want to especially encourage more diverse founder teams and female founders to work with me, because that's the goal ultimately, to get more funding also to diverse teams. And that's why I'm pushing on that, and why I want to contribute to this. And that's also kind of the whole name. But obviously it doesn't mean I exclusively want to work with women, but I do know as well during my time at Pirates that obviously it attracts already more women, because I'm also a woman, and somehow this is where I want to spend my time on to giving this knowledge to the right people, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense, Jill. I think there is a lot of systemic unfairness still going around, and a lot of the times even subconsciously,
For sure,
which needs to be pushed against with initiatives like yours. And I really love the fact of the bootcamp. I mean, when I look back at when I was in a process of raising, I really thought it's going to take less long than it did eventually. So it was the time component, and the fact that it just, I had to do it. It was like a second full-time job, basically, next to being the founder and the CEO. And I think that's a thing that a lot of founders are underappreciating. So
100%.
Great to box it into like an actionable, we have this time.
That's the goal. Let's see.
Yeah. So now, before we go, I mean, I always like to also talk a bit about where everything's going. I mean, we touched upon here and there, about how the landscapes have been changing, especially when it comes to how founders are and how fundraising environment is. I'm curious about your thoughts on the hype topic. The AI has come in, and also especially when you look at technical startups, it seems to be changing the game a bit. That means that what I see is founders with very small teams or small founding teams are able to do so much more. And it's on the one side on the development front, but also when it comes to marketing, and you've mentioned it as well, right?
Yeah.
AI is touching upon all of these fields. So I think it's fair to say founding teams are able to do now much more with much less.
Yeah.
How do you think that influences the whole fundraising and the whole VC model, maybe, if you want to bring it to a macro level?
Yeah. I mean, I think, and this is also probably a good case for the whole bootstrapping topic, because obviously if you can set up your business super lean, and if you're able with few resources to build now much more, potentially then also the revenue that you generate is maybe enough for that small team, let's say, and you can maybe grow just in a better way, let's say. So I think this is kind of where probably a lot of people step away from this VC model and think maybe that's not the right thing for me, and we can actually build this business by ourselves. So I think this is changing a lot. Yes, mainly I think that everyone is a bit more hesitant on if the VC money really makes sense, and also what dependencies it brings. And I think obviously on the VC side, and the contrary, it's I guess the pressure is even higher to build fast revenue. And that's what we're seeing now. Like, they want to see revenue before they invest, and it's very tricky to find VCs that invest pre-revenue. So probably the pressure of having already at the very early stage more than like an idea. I think someone who cannot really build already an MVP without investments, you would think, that doesn't make sense anymore. Everyone should be able to do that with the tools. And what's out there right now. So I guess the pressure goes also up on the VC side in terms of what they want to see. The bar is higher, let's say. I don't know if you would agree.
I know, I definitely would. I think you're spot on. The dynamics have changed, and it's the expectations on both sides are
Absolutely.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, so very interesting new world, and I think with your whole endeavor, you're definitely on the right track, I would say, and you're sort of in the first lane to see everything happen. Listen, it's been a pleasure, Jule.
Thank you.
Before we go, where can our listeners connect with you online? Maybe to explore Fundraising FemPIRE further and book a
Yes.
call.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity. It was really great talking to you. And yeah, if you want to learn more about my business, you can go on fundraisingfempire.com. There you can actually book a call with me and we can have like a free sparring session on your fundraising strategy, or just connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm super happy to see you there and exchange directly there. Yes, thank you.
There you go. Thank you, Jule. It's been a blast.
Yes, thank you so much.